Hey, what's happening everybody? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to discuss this morning's pretty interesting Nintendo Direct partner presentation. Okay, before I hop into all of this Nintendo Direct madness from this morning, I do want to remind you guys that I am currently pushing to cross 15,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I am getting very close. I've had a good couple of days and a good week as far as subscriber growth. I really appreciate it from you guys. So, of course, as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing, then maybe consider subscribing to the channel to help me cross that milestone before the end of 2020. So yesterday at 12 midnight here on the West Coast, we had out of nowhere a Twitter announcement from Nintendo saying that their third partner presentation showcase for 2020 was going to be happening, basically here, today, this morning, on September 17th at 7 a.m. And this was very interesting. As I tweeted, I found it pretty curious that Nintendo decided to give us more than 24 hours notice of this new show. To me, that was very interesting and notable because the first two presentations did not get that treatment. The very first one in July was only announced at 11 o'clock at night the night before. So there was less than 10 hours notice for that partner presentation. The second one in August, that one had no preamble, no build-up. Nintendo just shadow dropped that thing one morning, and suddenly there we go, here's the second show. With this one, like I said, they were willing to give more than a full 24 hours notice, which to me was signifying that there probably was going to finally be some significant games and some exciting info to learn in this show. And personally for me, I have to say that for the most part, that was true. I am really happy to say that for the first time out of these three shows, I feel like we had one that was pretty darned good. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys and tell you that it was amazing. I don't think this was the most incredible 12 minutes of a Nintendo Direct or presentation that we've ever seen, because it really wasn't. To me, it had one huge, massive, exciting surprise, something worth getting out of my seat and jumping around and hooting and hollering for, which is great, and I'll get to that stuff in a minute. And then it did have some other, quality games and some quality things going on, but it still was just another average show. However, being an average show, at least in my opinion, okay, you guys, I'm just talking about my opinion, being average makes it far better than how I thought the first two shows went. I mean, I've kept it no secret that the first two shows to me were not very good. I am not a big fan of them. I understand that the first one gave us Shin Megami Tensei, and for fans of that series and that genre of game, that was a huge announcement. And as I've said since day one, I am thrilled for you guys. I think that that is wonderful. However, neither show had anything exciting for me, and I thought that they were poorly paced and they didn't include exciting games, and it showed that Nintendo was maybe not paying attention to people's reactions or reading the room, so to speak, and just really not delivering stuff that was getting people excited in a year and a situation where they've been so quiet and mysterious otherwise. However, since the last show in August, to be fair, we've now had Super Mario 3D All-Stars and all the Mario stuff confirmed, we've had a new Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity confirmed, and now we get today's show that finally had a collection of pretty decent games, and again, in my opinion, one huge banger of a game. So I'm not going to go over every single title that was discussed in today's show, but I will go over a couple of the main ones. And I'm going to start off with the big one, okay? The most exciting thing, they started the show with a new Monster Hunter. And actually, of course, it's two Monster Hunters. But the big focus is Monster Hunter Rise. I will probably break this game down and this information from the Direct that they had a little bit more later in another video. This video isn't supposed to be about breaking down every game, and not even Monster Hunter. But I will say, this game, you guys, I am so pumped. I am a humongous Monster Hunter fan. Monster Hunter World right now stands as probably one of my top 3 or 4 games of this entire generation. It is so good to me, and there had been rumors about Capcom announcing a new Monster Hunter for the Switch specifically for a while, for a couple of months. In fact, this rumor went so far as to get deconfirmed last week, and suddenly it came out that actually that rumor wasn't true, guys. Never mind, just ignore it. There is no Monster Hunter from Capcom for the Switch. And so that left a lot of us really sad. But oh man, what a lie that was, because this morning we saw the game confirmed, and it's a new take on traditional Monster Hunter, so it very much is a traditional Monster Hunter game, but there's a lot of cool new mechanics and spins and twists to the formula, and the fact that this is coming to Switch, and by all accounts exclusive to the Switch, is incredibly exciting. It is scheduled for March 26th next year. Man, I was screaming with joy, you guys. Coming off of all the cool PlayStation stuff yesterday, and, you know, Age of Calamity the week before, and now we have a new Monster Hunter on the Switch. It is just fantastic. They also confirmed Monster Hunter Stories 2, which is very, very interesting. Now, the first one to my memory launched on the 3DS. I thought it looked very interesting, and I had planned on playing it, but I really honestly never got to it, just because it's like a weird JRPG spin-off of the Monster Hunter series. But it still looked fine, and now all of a sudden we have a sequel on the Switch, and it looks much, much, much better. Now, for me, I still need to understand a little bit more about it. I need to understand how JRPG-ish it is, because for those of you who know me, I'm not the biggest JRPG fan. I love the Xenoblade games, I loved Octopath Traveler, but outside of those, I really haven't found too many that I love. I love the Monster Hunter series, so I'm a little bit more open to trying this one, but I still need to see it and understand what it is before I really get too much into it. I mean, it's got like a Dragon Quest looking kind of feel, and I don't really know if that means it would appeal to me or not appeal to me. Either way, it was a great surprise. I mean, what a huge surprise to know that 2 Monster Hunter games were revealed. One is a traditional game, one is an RPG spin-off, which means the spin-off becomes less of an offensive thing to people because there's a regular game coming as well. It was just a great career day for Nintendo and Capcom and Monster Hunter. I love to see all this stuff. They are both scheduled for next year. Now, to be fair, even though there was some quality stuff shown after that, really nothing else has me jumping for joy or jumping out of my seat, except for the announcement of the game I've already played, and I'll get to that in a minute. But they did show a little bit more of this game, Balan Wonderland, for the Nintendo Switch, which very much is echoing like a Nights into Dreams kind of series and gameplay. It looks like a potentially very cool, whimsical, magical platformer. It could appeal to me because I do like games that are like that. And that game is confirmed for March next year as well, and so talking about that was certainly very cool. They showed and confirmed a new Disgaea 6, for next year that, by the way, from what I saw on Twitter, is actually exclusive to the Switch, and so that is huge news if that's true. A new Disgaea game. I've never played any of these games. I've been curious in the past. I might actually get into this one. Maybe I pick this one up. I'm not quite sure. So it's not that it necessarily moved me or made me, jump for joy, but I'm curious, and I found it a big business move to make it exclusive. They also showed Rune Factory 5, not a series that is interesting to me, but it is a pretty high-profile title coming out next year. And they did also shadow drop that game Hades, which to me does look very cool. That is available today on the eShop. I think I might be picking that one up, so that becomes another game that I'm very excited for that was discussed today. And then, of course, the last big news from today, and this was a huge announcement, is the confirmation after all this time that Ori and the Will of the Wisps is coming to the Nintendo Switch, and it's coming today. That is crazy news, you guys. The first game, Ori and the Blind Forests, came out on the Switch last year, which was a big deal because these are Microsoft Studios games, and just like Cuphead as well, it's come to the Nintendo Switch. And this year, the sequel, Will of the Wisps, came out. In my opinion, that is currently the best game that I have played in 2020, you guys. Right now, the front runner for my game of the year is absolutely Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Even over amazing games like Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, you guys, is incredible. And that game coming to the Switch is huge news, and the fact that it's coming today, absolutely crazy, so very exciting. I cannot recommend enough that people play it. And they also confirmed a physical collection of both games coming out next year. That is phenomenal, you guys. I cannot recommend enough that everybody plays this game. It is so good. And on Twitter, Moon Studios even confirmed that they have the Switch version of this game running at 60 frames per second and completely optimized, which is great because as much as I loved the Xbox One release, it did not run very well, so they are really putting in maximum effort to this. And so for me, that's pretty much it as far as stuff that actually moved me or got me excited or felt notable to me. The only games I'm actively excited for are, of course, Monster Hunter Rise, and then Hades shadow dropping today, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, my favorite game of the year, but a game I've already played, so it kind of falls in that weird category for me. For you guys who maybe haven't played it, it should be one of the most notable things to take away from this show, because Ori is seriously that good. You know, Balan Wonderland is a significant game. Rune Factory, Disgaea 6, they're fairly significant games there, even if they're not making me super overjoyed to play them. And outside of that, you got a couple of weird things, like there was a Sniper Elite game that's coming out, I think, next month for the Switch. There's also another Ring Fit Adventure-like expansion boxing game or something, like that's cool for fans of that. And that Empire of Sun or something, like mobster game is coming. And that's pretty much it. I think that might actually be every game that was discussed today as far as I can remember. So that's the show. And like, yeah, it's absolutely the best of the 3 shows they've had so far. I'm really happy to see it. Again, I don't think it's this crazy amazing thing, but it certainly makes me happy to see Monster Hunter, so yeah, I feel pretty good about it. Now, obviously there are a couple of games missing from today's presentation that a lot of people hope to see that we didn't see, and I also think that this show is giving us a glimpse of Nintendo's near future, and it's also proving a theory of mine correct that I've been, kind of stating to you guys over the past couple of weeks and months. I think this is really letting us understand what Nintendo is doing for the rest of the year here, and I'll get into that. But I do want to bring up that we did not see games like Bayonetta 3. We did not see Bravely Default 2, which I actually thought we were going to see today once this was confirmed yesterday morning. And we did not see Doom Eternal for the Switch, okay? And these partner presentations are focused on third-party games, so no reason to expect any first-party Nintendo stuff. But these 3 games I just listed off here, Bayonetta, Bravely Default, and Doom Eternal, those are third-party games. We're waiting to see what's going on with those games on the Switch, and I feel like it would have been really fantastic to see them today, and yet we didn't. So that is definitely disappointing. Even No More Heroes 3 would have been great, but they've already confirmed that game for next year, so I don't think they plan on showing us that game again before 2020 is over. So really, those were the other games that I think a lot of us were hoping to see. And, I kind of feel like Bayonetta 3 might officially be a 2021 release. A lot of us were already feeling like it was. I definitely was, but I was hoping to see it today and maybe get a surprise shocker announcement that it was going to be coming out in December. That's not the case. I do still think Bravely Default has a chance at coming out in December, so for fans of that, I think you might get lucky and get that game in 2020. Doom Eternal, I don't even know what to say, man. Like I said last week, there is a conversation out there that people are having that maybe Doom Eternal is canceled on the Switch, and I'm not yet willing to believe that 100%, but I'm starting to wonder if it might be, so the jury is still out on that one. Now, the other thing I was mentioning here is what this is showing us about Nintendo's plans over the course of the next few months and for the rest of 2020, and how this, I think, is really proving a theory that I've had for a couple of weeks correct, and that is that Nintendo is pretty much done with 2020. When I've been theorizing about mysterious Nintendo Directs or brand new announcements and stuff that we might see, is August the last month for 2020 announcements? Is September the last month for 2020 announcements? And I feel like this partner presentation is kind of showing us that, yeah, we might officially be done with significant announcements for 2020. If you look at the biggest announcements and games talked about from today's show, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Balan Wonderland, Disgaea 6, Rune Factory 5, every single one of those is a 2021 game. As far as I could see, running back through things, I think that both Hades and Ori being shadow dropped and that Sniper Elite game might be the only games talked about today that are releasing in 2020. 2 of them are shadow dropped digital games, and they're games that have already released prior anyway. And actually, I don't even know if Sniper Elite has already released. I do not follow that series, so forgive me for not really knowing that stuff there. But that's it for 2020 games. Everything else is 2021. And so it basically just seems like Nintendo, I think, might have already moved on to 2021, with the exception of still having Hyrule Warriors to release. And, next week on September 26th, they are giving us a Nintendo Direct or a Treehouse or something that is focused entirely on Hyrule Warriors. So they're still going to address us about their last big game for the year that we know about. And so that's good, but I don't really think any other major first-party or third-party games are really coming this year, except for maybe Bravely Default. Again, I will admit, I think Bravely Default still has a chance at coming out this year in 2020. But I think everything else is 2021. And you know, for the past 2 months, that's been my theory. As I've been discussing the idea of Nintendo running out of time to give us a Nintendo Direct in August or September to discuss 2020 games, that there was always a chance they were going to still give us announcements or directs after August and September, but that we would start to see them instead discussing games for 2021. And today's show, even though it's focused on third parties, is doing that, is focusing on high-profile 2021 releases. And so this is just a very long-winded way for me to say that what I had been assuming seems to be correct, and at this point, I don't expect any other announcements that are huge to be 2020 releases. If we get a Nintendo Direct or a Nintendo Treehouse or a Twitter announcement that's pretty big in the next couple of weeks or months, you know, like a surprise awesome game, I mean, at this point, it's not going to be something for 2020, you guys. I think Nintendo Switch's 2020 is mostly set. We've got Mario 3D All-Stars this week. We've got Pikmin 3 in October. We've got Hyrule Warriors in November. And then, you know, maybe a couple of other indie games or something releasing on the eShop. But that's it, you know. Maybe Doom Eternal or Bravely Default squeaks in December, but that's pretty much it, man. Nintendo, I think, has officially moved on to 2021. And you know, I can't really blame them and I can't be upset about it. It's been a crazy year. I've been discussing it all year. You guys know who've been around for a while. And with Mario and Pikmin and Hyrule Warriors releasing over the next 3 months, even though most of those games are old games we've already played, I think it's enough. Considering the pandemic this year, I feel like Nintendo finally found a way to release some fairly significant stuff at the end of the year. And I'm okay with it, you know? We can't forget that the Gods and Monsters, which is now the Phoenix Immortal Rising, that is a multi-platform game coming to the Switch in December, so I'm glad I remembered that because I forgot that on my last video. That is a high-profile game coming to the Switch in December. It's not an exclusive title, but it is still a very big game. It looks fantastic. I can't wait to play it. I don't know if I'm going to buy it on my Switch, but I'm definitely going to be playing it in December. So this is where we are. I think, you know, 2020's had a weird run, but I feel like for the most part, we've seen 2020 come to a close for the Switch, and it's time for us to start paying attention to next year. So these are just my thoughts and theories and opinions on today's show and what I think it says about Nintendo's future. You've heard my thoughts and opinions, and now I want to hear yours. What did you think of today's partner presentation, and what do you think it says about the near future for Nintendo? Do you still expect a lot of big announcements to come out in 2020? Or do you think most of what we're going to hear about in the future is all going to be 2021 titles, like I do? Because that is definitely what I feel. Whatever you think about this stuff, talk about it below. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.